Well, welcome. We're going to talk tonight. The topic is Chromebooks. Now, I've been doing this for a very long time. It was one of my very first presentations when I got talking and speaking around the country. And so the original talk that I gave 5-6 years ago, because nobody knew what a Chromebook was, the talk was, what the heck is a Chromebook, right? And then I did that for a few years, and then Judy wanted me to do an APCU presentation, so I did Chromebook for seniors. And then, you know, people got on me and said, well, why should it just be seniors using Chromebooks? So now I have the title Chromebooks for everyone. So hopefully that'll please everybody, because I think everybody should be using a Chromebook, and we'll discuss the reasons why in a few minutes. You'll see my, my web address there. If you want to see any more presentations, you can go to the techforsenior.com and you'll see all the APCU presentations there. And if you have any questions or concerns, you can email me. That's my email address. I wanted to give you don't have to look at this slide. This is just for me to remind myself to talk about. I want to talk about the history of Chromebooks and how they came to be. It's sort of an interesting story. I could talk for hours on it, but I'm only going to I'm going to try and keep it brief. The history of Chromebooks really is one of iPads. And in 2010, Steve Jobs introduced the iPad. And he introduced this to the world. And what Steve Jobs did was he partnered with the education market. And he, particularly universities and schools, they gave away millions of iPads and partnered very closely with the education field. And what that did is it planted the seeds that an iPad promoted good education. And today, if you travel around the world, my daughter and son-in-law are international teachers. I've been to visit them in Australia, New Zealand. They worked in Singapore and now are in Beijing, China. You'll find that all those schools, all the private schools, all use iPads, and all the kids all get iPads each year. So Apple makes a lot of money on iPads. So what happened is that at the same time as Steve Jobs introduced the iPad, was the technical aspect of in schools was to run networks and to be IT compatible. And you can imagine having 1,000 students in a classroom or in a school. You have the administrative staff, and then you have the teaching staff. And to run IT departments was a huge problem. And Google came up with a solution called G Suite. And today, about 75%, 80% of the schools in the United States use Google's networking in the schools to manage their networks, and it works very well. Apple never really was into networking and never was really that keen on it. So basically the single sign-in and how the networks works through G Suite. Well, what happened about 5 or 6 years ago was the schools all started to get into problems with money. One thing all school boards do, they are short of cash. And in the Los Angeles School Department, they had a budget per year of $346 million a year for iPads. So that was a lot of iPads. And people were pretty fed up because Apple kept, it was making a lot of money on these iPads, and they were expensive. So Google thought, well, why don't we come up with a cheaper version of the iPad, something different, something that would cost less. And that's when the idea of the Chromebook was hatched. And the Chromebook would be, of course, run on a very secure operating system. It was for schools, and it would fit well into their networking system and Google Drive. So they did. The idea of the Chromebook was hatched. And it was very popular, and they produced a lot of, and companies produced a lot of Chromebooks. Now, you probably have heard the movie The Perfect Storm, and those of you who have seen it, there's a lot of things that happened at the same time. But what you may or may not remember was 5 years ago, I think it was 5 or 6 years ago, when Windows 10 was released. And the year before Windows 10 was released was what happened was nobody sold computers. PCs were dead for that year before. Most of the computer manufacturers got out of the PC business. You'll see Sony left, Toshiba left, a number of companies. They even HP at that time, they separated from the HP printers and formed a new company because they didn't think they were going to make it. And nobody bought PCs in that year before Windows 10 came out. However, in that particular year, it was the first year that the group of kids in high school had been using Chromebooks for 5 years, all graduated, and they all went to university, and they wanted to buy a Chromebook. Well, you couldn't buy Chromebooks. The only way you could buy Chromebooks was through the schools. They didn't sell them at Best Buy. No one could buy a Chromebook. The only way you could get a Chromebook would be through Amazon. And they were sort of seconds from schools. So what happened is Samsung came along. Samsung and Asus were the two that first came out with a commercial Chromebook. And it happened in that year prior to Windows 10 opening up. And they sold all the Chromebooks. Samsung sold the first round of the Chromebook, plus they produced in 3 days. Worldwide sales of this, and they sold out in 3 days. And Chromebooks have just escalated and moved in over the last 5 years to sort of mainstream computing now, and we'll go over that with you. But that's sort of the history of how Chromebooks came to be. Some of the myths about Chromebooks is they're inexpensive computers. My Chromebooks were $1,500. You can buy Chromebooks up to $3,000, so they're not cheap computers. They're only good for checking email and surfing. You can do any application, including desktop publishing, video editing, any service you want, you can do on a Chromebook, and they're only Chrome browsers, and that's not true either. Now, the other thing is people who had old computers that are Windows 7 compatible, and they don't want to upgrade them to Windows 10, so there was a whole bunch of those around. There is a company that allows you to put the Chromium operating system. You don't have a Chromebook, but it's called Neverware, and you can put the Chromium operating system on a Windows 7 computer and make it a not a Chromebook, but it's a PC running Chromium, the Chromium operating system, and it's made by a company called Neverware. This is actually good for schools, or if you have a church and you have lots of old Windows 7 PCs running around you don't know what to do with. You can certainly do that. So I just wanted to mention that for you. I wouldn't do it if it's just one machine. It's not worth it. But if you have a lot of machines sitting around in an organization, then you can convert them to Chromebooks. This is you mentioned Judy Tallur. This is Judy sent me this. Her school in 2018, 2019. There's one school district bought 23,000 Chromebooks. So Chromebooks are that's just one school district, and you'll find all the major computer manufacturers now are certainly into the Chromebook market, because if you're not, you're going to go broke. That's where the big PCs is going down. Less and less PCs are bought each year. More and more Chromebooks are. So that's what's happening. So you have to be in the Chromebook market if you want to survive. If you go to Walmart and you look now, this is a shot from our local Walmart in Mesa. You'll see that on the first set of computers there are all Chromebooks. So and you'll see that there's a big selection there, and you'll see as well. I'll show you Best Buy in a minute as well. So Chromebooks are, in fact, there's more Chromebooks at that Walmart than there are PCs. If you go to the Walmart website and you type in Chromebooks, there's 979 results that will come up. So there are a huge number of models, not only at Walmart, but on Walmart online. If you go to Best Buy now has a great big huge Chromebook session, and you'll be able to. And I check the sales force there occasionally and go around and talk to them, and they have a pretty good. You know, it used to be they promoted the myths of the Chromebooks, but now they're better educated and and they really do understand the value of a Chromebook. So this is the Best Buy, and you'll see that there's lots of choices and models, and you can choose and go around and look and try to define what you want. Satya Nadella, who's the head of course, CEO of Microsoft, wrote a book a few years ago called Hit Refresh. And in his book, he talked about Microsoft being a kinder, gentler company now, but he also talked about the fact that Windows may not be the dominant operating system of the future. And he certainly mentions this and talks about it in his book. And I think this certainly he's referring to the Chromebooks and the Chromium operating system. What you need to know about the Chromium operating system, if you look here on this slide, I want you to look at the top picture there on the left-hand side, and the big train there that says Microsoft. If you look at the Microsoft operating system, it is a huge, huge, huge operating system. And you have to think of it like that great big truck that's going and pulling all that. You need a lot of horsepower to run it. If you look at the bottom picture on the right-hand side, you'll see this is, again, the Apple operating system is a huge operating system. It needs lots of horsepower to run, and it has a lot of legacy applications that need to run. So again, it's a big operating system needing lots of horsepower to run. If you look at the bottom left-hand slide, you'll see a Mazda Miata. And that's what you have to think about as the Chromium operating system. It's small, it's light. All Chromebooks actually have 2 copies, and we'll talk about the primary and secondary copy all the time. And so think of it as a Mazda Miata, and it's light, it can go fast, and doesn't need much horsepower. And you'll see that in a minute when we talk about some of the models. Now, one of the things about Chromebooks are their security. They are extremely secure. Of course, they're built for our children in schools. They're built for the corporate clients. A lot of the corporate businesses use Chromebooks. And so this is, they are extremely secure. They come with all their own antivirus software. You don't install anything. It's all done for you. Now, what they have in here is called a TPM chip. This is called a Trusted Platform Module. So if you want to make a Chromebook, you have to buy one of these from Google. This chip contains the security software in the chip, and if you try to damage the chip, modify it, or do anything to that chip, the chip self-destroys and your Chromebook won't work. So this chip is in every Chromebook, and you'll see here, this is the chip, and it sits in a Chromebook. And this is called the TPM, or Trusted Platform Module. Now, what happens is when you start up your Chromebook, there are two copies of the operating system. So when you start up, it starts up on the primary copy, and it does a first pass through the to scan your system to make sure that it is secure. It does a quick pass through, and it scans it and looks at it, comparing it to the TPM module and making sure that everything is fine. If it finds an error, then it reverts to the secondary copy, and it checks again. It will go through a primary scan on the secondary copy, and if there's any problems or there's any issues with that, it will go out to the internet and get a brand new, fresh, secure copy from Google and install it on your Chromebook, and that process would take about 2 minutes if it has to do that. So it goes through, and so let's say it passed the first scan on the primary copy, it would go then through a deeper scan, if that's in green, and that would go through a deeper scan, and then it goes through the deepest scan, which is the red. So your operating system gets 3 scans before it actually starts up on your computer. This takes seconds. That you wouldn't even know that it happens. But the 3 scans all go through the TPM to make sure that there are no that the software is the way it should be. And so because of this, the Chromium operating system is totally secure, and this is how it works. The second thing that happens with this is a couple of other things. Many of you who use Windows understand that the Windows operating system installed is a program, and the program installs into the Windows operating system. And those of you who have been around for a long time know that when the Windows program's installed, there's a whole bunch of software that gets dumped into the Windows 10 operating system. There's DLL files, there's all sorts of stuff, and it dumps a whole bunch of stuff into the operating system. Now this causes problems because sometimes it's not easy to get that stuff out of the Windows 10 machine. So in Chromebooks with the Chromium operating system, we don't have programs, we have apps. And the apps sit on top of the operating system, and the operating system considers these apps hostile. And so it does not let the apps have anything to do with the operating system whatsoever. Not only that, but it uses sandboxing. Now, this is a new concept that Microsoft finally decided to get around to using, and it'll be coming out in the next few versions. It's called sandboxing. And so when you have an app that's misbehaving, or there's a problem with it, or there's some security issues from it, the app can't actually move to the next tab. It's sandboxed into the one tab. So the way in which you would resolve the issue if you had something bad happening in one of the tabs on your Chromebook is simply turn the computer off and restart it, and it would all turn out just fine. So because of the sandboxing, because of the concept of the apps rather than programs, and the TPM module, Chromebooks are very, very, very secure. You do not need any antivirus software on them. You don't need anything. That's all done for you in the background, and it all comes installed as part of the operating system. We've already talked about that. Now, Chromebooks all have SSDs. There are no spinning drives on any Chromebooks. They're all flash memory, or, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, but they are all hard drives. So one of the things that we wanted to do is, when you're considering a purchase of a Chromebook, you may want to consider the operating system that other people in your families use. And you may want to require, and also I always like to talk about any specific considerations of, think about, for example, if your wife is a sewer and she has a whole bunch of electronics connected to your computer, will that work on a Chromebook? So I think you have to look at other parts of your, before switching to a Chromebook, you have to look at the whole picture and other family members. The other thing that is different about Chromebooks is that the Chromebook expires. The physical Chromebook expires. The life of a Chromebook will be around, so the life, let me go with Windows 10. As long as you, the Windows 10 is the deal you make with Microsoft, is as long as you have that PC, your Windows 10, they'll keep upgrading Windows 10 until, well, forever, right? I mean, your deal is that with Microsoft is that it goes forever. It's not true with a Chromebook. A Chromebook it physically expires after, and then the length of time varies per unit. It is around 8 years. And this is one of the things that we have to be careful about when you buy refurbished Chromebooks on, there are a lot of refurbished Chromebooks on Amazon. And that is because the school districts, I think there's probably 20 or 30 million Chromebooks in the school districts. And when the leases expire on these, they often flip them back out onto the market. And you have to be careful when you're buying these machines, because if they've already used up 4 or 5 years of their life, you may only be getting 3, even though you get a good deal when you buy it. So remember, the units actually expire. There, hopefully, we'd like to see, and I think this is going to occur in the next couple of years, where we actually put the expiry dates on the boxes. So when you go to Best Buy and you actually look at the box, you'll be able to see what the expiry date is on the unit. So when you're considering a Chromebook, I think it's important that you make a budget and you stick to it. Remember that you probably want to consider it as maybe about a 5-year investment and look at that. How much time will you spend using your device? What type of usage do you want for your machine? And there are some specific uses that do very well on Chromebooks. And if you want to travel with it, it certainly makes a great device for traveling. One of the things that I'd like you to consider is that a lot of people use laptops and they never leave their desk. And this is a huge problem because you're paying a lot of money for the battery in it. And the question is, do you really need a laptop if it's never going to leave your desk? You may want to consider a different machine. And in fact, you'll see here, these used to be these great big huge batteries like this that you took off the back. In fact, most laptops now have non-removable batteries. The batteries actually are part of the heat sink in the bottom of the computer, and they're glued in and they're not replaceable. So that's, and oftentimes they take a large part of the bottom of a laptop. So, you know, you have to, I think, you know, because a lot of times people just never move their laptops, they just sit on their desk. Well, if that's the case, then you should seriously consider a Chromebox. And this is a device that is a box. It's a lot like the Nook, and you see that Intel makes for Windows machines, but this is a box that you plug your peripherals into. It can sit, as you see on the back of this monitor here, and it has you plug a keyboard and a monitor into it, and it has all the hardware inside it. And this is called a Chromebox, and it makes it very easy to transport it. If you're a snowbird and you want to go south, this fits in your pocket, and when you get down there, you just plug it into a keyboard, mouse, and monitor, and away you go. ASUS makes these. A number of companies make Chromeboxes. You can get these with a variety of configurations, right from, so you could pay anything from $200 or $300 for one to $1,500, $1,800, depending how much, depending what the configuration is. You basically can have these configured any way you want. But it is really a cool idea, and a lot of people use Chromeboxes rather than actually having something with a battery in it. And that sort of works good. The other thing that I'd always like to talk about is screen considerations. Now, Chromebooks and all laptops come with a variety of sizes of screens. And as we get older, we get harder and harder to see the screens. Now, I always have big monitors. I usually have 28 or 34-inch monitors that I plug in. So, you know, really, I think that when you're going to look at laptops and you're looking at them, if you think the screen is a bit small, as a senior, certainly I like it better if you plug a big monitor in. And all Chromebooks, you can plug monitors in. So the size, my advice, so what size should you buy as a screen? I think, you know, from my perspective, I have, well, in this room, I have 3 monitors, and I have, you know, I have 34-inch screens. So, I mean, I have a lot of real estate here. I don't want an 11-inch screen. It doesn't work well for me. So, you know, I think you need to look at that. Should the screen flip? Now, this is an interesting one. And I would say, first of all, if you have a Windows 10 machine, would you want to have a screen that flips? And a lot of computer manufacturers make machines that have screens that flip, and Windows can actually be used in tablet mode. It's creepy. I've never known anybody. I've asked all sorts of people at Best Buy. I said, "Have you ever used tablet mode?" And nobody has ever used it. I tried it for 3 weeks, and it is weird. Using Windows in tablet mode is weird. So, but tablet mode in a Chromebook is definitely beneficial because most of the apps you're going to use in a Chromebook are the ones that you're using on your Android phone, and they're touchy-feely ones, which you sort of use anyway. And so I think a flip screen is important, and a touchy-feely thing, and using it with a touchpad, sorry, a touch screen is important. And I think that's something that you need to think about. How bright is it? We'll talk a little bit about nits in a minute, which is the brightness of the screen. I would go, and that's the nice thing about Best Buy, is you can go down, you can have a look at all of them and look at the screens and decide which one you want. Brighter is obviously better. Screen resolution is important, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. You'll find that the $200 Chromebooks, and I'm going to show you a Chromebook tonight that's $169, these are all usually low resolution screens. And you know, it's okay for doing email and checking a few things, but you really want to spend a little more on the screen if you if you're going to do some serious computing. Now, and again, there's the some of the screens. And again, here is the external monitors you can plug in. And again, Chromebooks work well. You can plug anything into a Chromebook and it'll work just fine. Now, what type of hard drives? You really don't have a choice here. All laptops, all Chromebooks have SSDs in them. There are no spinning drives, so that works out really well. Now, this is a slide that I normally show people who are considering purchasing a new computer, a PC, not a Chromebook. So I just wanted to go over this with you and tell you what's going to happen. Have a plan for so the first slide here is have a plan for your data. And that's true. I mean, you want to decide how you're going to manage your data, which I think is fine. Apply available updates immediately. You never have to worry about updates. Updates are all done in the background. And you know something? Remember I told you about 2 copies? They always update the secondary copy, so you're never inconvenienced. You don't have to, you know how many times Windows comes up and says, gee whiz, right in the middle of presentation, you need to update your system now. Well, Chromebooks don't do that. They do it on the secondary copy. When you turn your computer off at night, it switches the copy. It puts the secondary copy as the primary, and it reverses them. So any updates that come through the day, you're never bothered with that. So you don't have to worry about auto updates. Review security programs. No security programs you need on a Chromebook. None, 0. It's all done for you. You will not get a virus on a Chromebook. Install a password manager. Good idea. Chrome comes with a password manager in it. Dump the bloatware. No bloatware on a Chromebook. A Chromebook is no matter who makes the Chromebook, it's all the same. There are no advertising, no McAfee, no nothing. What you get is Google's Chromium operating system, and that's all you get. Give users their own account. Yes, the Chromebook is account driven, but so is Microsoft and so is Apple. Those are all account driven, so you will need a Google account when you use your Chromebook. I want to just, this is a complicated slide, but I just wanted to, you probably are aware of this now. I put this in about a year ago. A lot of people got confused about the ARM. You see a lot of ARM processors in Chromebooks, and now you're seeing now a lot of PCs are having ARM processors in them, and Intel sort of losing a bit of ground. So I sometimes like to talk about this just to let you know that ARM is a solid processor, and and you'll see this quite commonly now in PCs and for sure laptops or Chromebooks. The Play Store, I always like to mention this. Your Chromebook will, of course, where you get the apps is you get it in the Play Store. Well, the Play Store is the same Play Store that you get it with your Android phone. In fact, most of the apps that you're going to be using are very similar, if not the same apps that you use on your Android phone. Prior to about 3 years ago, the Chromebooks got all the apps and information from the Chrome Web Store. And that was sort of a separate thing at the Chrome Web Store. Then what happened is Google made this tremendous announcement and said, we're going to have all the apps in the Play Store available to use on a Chromebook. This is a big announcement. This is a big deal. It opened the whole Android Play Store up to Chromebooks. And they did. And it's worked very well. However, if you have a laptop that's 3 or more years old, it may not have the ability to get the apps from the Play Store. Again, this is something you want to consider if you're buying an older Chromebook and or a refurbished one. You want to make sure that it really isn't much of an issue anymore, because it's 3 years is a long time ago. We don't see them as much, but it certainly was an issue a year or two ago when people would come in and they couldn't access the Play Store. They had to use the Chrome Web Store, and there just wasn't quite as big a selection. But now you have basically any app that is in the Android store, you can certainly use on your Chromebook. This is just another shot of the Chromebox. Now, video editing, I mean, you can do anything on a Chromebook that you can do on a PC. I don't know if you know Chris and Jim Gould. They, Geeks on Tour, they did a whole show on video editing on a Chromebook, and they showed all the different shows and all the different programs you can use for video editing, and I do video editing on my Chromebook. If you look, many people are often concerned because Chromebooks have a very small hard drive, and really the concept is that you're going to store most of your stuff on Google Drive in the web rather than on the physical Chromebook. But all Chromebooks have an SD slot, and if you see here, this is the side of a Chromebook, and you'll see the SD slot there, and you can buy, I think this 512 gigabyte SanDisk was, I don't know, $35 or $40. You can get them now as a terabyte actually on these SD cards, so you can put an incredible amount of storage into your computer if you really want to do that. Now, there's a thing called a power wash on your computer. These are computers, Chromebooks are used by corporate offices all over the world and in great numbers, and because they're so secure. One of the things that happens is that they can be power washed, and power wash puts them back to factory specification, and it eliminates any personal data on there. And certainly we power wash the computers between if we sell them or move them. But in this case, this is a boardroom, and you'll see all the computers down here on the left-hand side. And what happens is, in this particular case, executives, CEOs would come into the boardroom. They would grab one of these Chromebooks. They would plug their PowerPoint in. They would do their PowerPoint and show their data, and then they hit the power wash button. And when they hit the power wash button on the Chromebook, it completely sanitized the machine, removed any evidence of anything there, and reinstall the operating system. And then they put the Chromebook back on the stand, and away they went. And the next person used it. So power washing takes. Now, if I can tell you on a personal note, I never installed Windows 7. I do a lot of tech support, but if someone needed Windows 7 to be reinstalled, that's a day-and-a-half job. I sent them off to the Best Buy, and they charged them $150 to do it. I didn't want to do that. Windows 10 is a little bit easier, but it's still a big job. Power washing on a Chromebook takes 2 minutes. 2 minutes to reinstall an operating system and put it back to factory specifications. We don't often do it, but it's certainly available, and that's pretty cool. Linux. Now, I don't know if you have any Linux users, but Linux also runs on a Chromebook. In fact, it runs very well on a Chromebook, and I've done a number of videos where I run Linux in conjunction with the Chrome operating system, and it works very well. In fact, you can't even tell in a lot of the applications that they're running. I do a demo where I run uh, a number of different apps, and you can't tell which is being run on Linux or the Chrome operating system. And I've got a bunch of videos out on that actually as well. And so this is interesting. And for those of you who may be worried that there's some aspect of that you wouldn't have if you need Windows, or you need some product in Windows, you would have the opportunity of having the same thing. I mean, Linux, in the Linux world, there's just a bazillion programs and software that do all sorts of things, and you'd be able to use that if you couldn't use the Windows. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. Printing from a Chromebook is fine. Printers, my advice would be, if you are deciding to use to buy a Chromebook and you need to buy a printer, HP is what I would recommend. HP prints all super easy to a Chromebook, and it works very, very well, although all computers will do that. You have, and again, it's just so easy on an HP printer, but there are 4 ways that you can print from a Chromebook to a printer. You, of course, have the direct connection, where you actually just plug it in to just plug it right into your printer. In other words, you use a USB connection and you just plug it right in. And that works great on HPs. They all have the Chromebook drivers in them, and you just plug it in and play. You can also work the wireless connection through your router, which you would normally, that's how you normally hook up a PC to a Windows 10, and you want it to be wireless, your printer to be wireless. You go through your router, and that's the same process. You can also do a direct connection, so if your printer has a hotspot, you can print your Chromebook right to the hotspot. Cloud, there's a whole issue of cloud printing. I'm not going to spend a lot of time doing that, other than to say that it's going away. I think, this is the next, I might have a slide, but you'll see, if you look on the printer boxes, you'll see cloud printing. And cloud printing used to be synonymous with Chromebooks, and that's where they printed through the cloud down into the printer. But that is really going away, and it will be one of the other 3 methods that all work very well. And again, that's USB. This is just your typical way. This is how we normally hook up through the network, or we do the direct printing right to your printer. Oh, here it is. So this is what you'd normally see on a printer. On a printer box, it says Google Cloud Print Ready, and this used to mean that it was set for a Chromebook, but that's all going away, and we're not doing cloud printing anymore. Now, so the meat of the information is the next few slides, if you're interested to buy a Chromebook. Robbie Payne at Chrome Unboxed put out a video, and I've summarized it for you. And I used to evaluate all the Chromebooks when they first came out. I did it for about a year, but there are so many models, and it's happening so fast now, there's no way I could do it. These guys are really good at it. So they categorized Chromebooks into 3 levels that you might want to purchase. And I'm going to give you a few models from each that you might be interested in. So there's the under $300 Chromebook, all right? Then they categorize them from $300 to $650, and then there's the Chromebook over $650. So I just wanted to give you the models. These are all current models. Excuse me, current models. These prices that are in US dollars, and they are at Best Buy right now. So we'll tell you about a couple of specials as well. So the under $300 Chromebooks are that get notable mention. They're not the best, but these are ones that get notable mention. The one on the left here you'll see is the Lenovo Chromebook 3. You can find this for $169 at Best Buy today. It's okay. It's plastic. It's all plastic. It's got a low resolution monitor. It has not really a fast processor, but it works. It does internet. It does all the stuff you'll want. And if your budget is really low, then $169 Chromebook. It's not like PCs where if you got a really cheap PC, it's just not going to work. You need the horsepower to run. Remember that great big truck that Windows 10 needs? It needs a lot of horsepower. It's not so with the Chromium operating system. So all these computers I'm going to show you now all work. It's just you know, this is a low-res screen, all plastic. If you move up into the next, the Lenovo S340, this is $299. This is a nice machine. It's a 14-inch touch screen. It has an Intel Celeron processor. It has 4 gigs of memory and 32 gigs of memory as flash memory for its hard drive. It's a nice machine, and it's available for $299. The Lenovo C340 is I think a little bit better. I like it because it has a 15-inch screen, so it has a nice size screen. It also is flipped. It also flips, and it's a touch screen. So I like that because I think that you need to flip it, and because I think you'll really it's worth it. Not in Windows, but I think it's worth that. So I like the C340. Again, it comes with an Intel Celeron, and again, it has 64 gigs of flash memory. So it has twice the amount of the S340. So this is even better, and it has a 15-inch. However, the award for the under 300 goes to Lenovo's Chromebook Duet, and it is $299. This is an incredible machine. It's a tablet and a PC, or it has a tablet, a detachable screen, and a keyboard. It's made by Lenovo. It has a 10.1-inch screen, but this is a high-res. It's an HD screen. It's really a good. It's touch screen, and you rarely see 400 nits. Nits is the amount of brightness the screen has, and this has 400 nits. This is a really bright screen. This is a great machine. It comes with 4 and 64 detachable keyboard, touchscreen, and tablet, and this today is available at Best Buy for $299. And this was what Robbie Payne and the Chrome Box group recommended as the best value for under $300. Now, if we move up to the next level of Chromebooks, the $300 to $650, you'll see a bunch of choices that you have. And the first choice that I wanted to mention was the Pixel Slate. Now, the Pixel Slate is $649. The Pixel Slate is actually in the next category. The Pixel Slate normally is around over $1,000, but Google has reduced this price and in this configuration for this model and put it down to $649. This was about a $1,200 computer, so they dropped it. It's a tablet. It does have a keyboard option. It's an 864 Intel M3 processor, and it has a very good display, and that's called the Pixel Slate. And we'll talk a little bit about more in the next category. The Lenovo Flex 5 is an amazing machine, and it's a great buy for $409. It's 14-inch. It's a 2-in-1 touchscreen. It has an i3 processor. It has a 128 gig hard drive. It's a backlit keyboard, and an absolute great buy for $409. It's a really good value. The Pixelbook Go is the new um, uh, mainstream Chromebook that's made by Google. And I have the original one of the Pixelbooks, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But the Pixelbook Go is the current mainstream processor Chromebook, and it's available. And this is $649, touchscreen, M3 processor, 864 backlit keyboard. This is a very, very nice machine, and well, the Pixel Slate is probably going to be probably phased out over the next year. The Pixelbook Go is new this year, and this is the mainstream Chromebook made by Google. However, the award, I wanted just to so I wanted to just talk a bit about the Lenovo Flex 5. I was doing this presentation today, and I read this morning, this article, and this is by a fellow reporter called Scott Kramer, and he talked about the Lenovo Flex 5, and he said, Lenovo perfects the Chromebook. During my testing, I've done everything possible on it, web serving, document creating, editing, movie streaming, blah, blah, blah. He went on, and he couldn't find one single thing wrong with this. And this was an article that was this morning, and and so this is the one for $409. So this is really, really an excellent machine. However, the winner, folks, is the Acer Chromebook Spin 713. Now, this is on for $629. This has an Intel i5 processor. It has 128 SSD. It has a quad, really, really amazing really amazing screen, backlit keys, Gorilla Glass trackpad. It's a convertible. It flips back over it. And today, I don't know how long this is going to be on. Best Buy has this on for $529. It's got $100 off. So this would be my choice. I agree with this. I think that the Lenovo Flex 5 would be an excellent choice. However, this is a really amazing machine, and this today is on sale at Best Buy for $529. Now, if you look at, finally, when we get to the insanely expensive ones, we look at Chromebooks over $650, and you can buy these. And when you're looking at these, you're looking at really high-end machines that have specific purposes. I have the original Google Pixelbooks that were for businesses, were made by Google and called Pixelbooks. My Pixelbook that I have is around $1,600, and it is spec'd out, and it has an i5 processor, 256 SSD, and it is an amazing. Out of all the laptops I've had in my lifetime, I still get thrills every morning when I pick that machine up, and I've had it for a year, and I still get my thrills with that. So that's pretty amazing. The Pixelbook Go, which I talked about in the last, is you can spec this out up to $2,000 depending the processor you want to put in it. This is really replacing the Pixelbook, and that's why I mentioned that. So that other one that we told you about in the previous is a pretty good deal, and you can spec the Pixelbook Go out as high as you want to go. And then there's the Asus Chromebook Flip, and this is an excellent one that's in the same category for around $800. The cream of the crop, the latest, best Chromebook made in mankind around the world is this particular one that has just come out. It's called the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook. This will probably give me a high as well. I like my Pixelbook, but this machine is truly amazing, particularly if you get it with the red version here. It has a 4K AMOLED display, 13.3-inch touchscreen, Intel Core i5, 256 SSD, and it comes in Fiesta Red. The only problem with this machine is the battery life. It is a problem because it only lasts 4 to 5 hours. And Samsung's working on this, but this is a new model. It has just come out, and it's $999. And this is what Robbie Payne and the group said was in the over 650 category, this would be their choice and their pick. I'm going to stick with my Pixelbook. I really love my Pixelbook. All right, I'll unshare my screen now, and we can certainly talk about any questions you have. And I wanted to put the models in. I just did that yesterday, so all these are current prices, and I wanted to give you guys an updated on what the actual models are and so on and so forth. So you can show that again for your